The German offensive began in fog and silence. Along a 75-mile front in the Ardennes forest of Belgium and Luxembourg, more than 250,000 German soldiers and nearly 600 tanks emerged from the tree line before dawn on December 16, 1944. The American units holding that sector were thinly stretched and in several cases newly arrived. The fog grounded Allied air power. The attack struck divisions that did not know what was coming, in terrain that channeled movement and prevented rapid reinforcement. Within 48 hours, the front had collapsed in multiple places. German armor was moving west. The largest ground battle in American military history had begun. On the 16th of December, 1944, Hitler launched Operation Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine, his last major offensive in the West. The concept was his own, a massive armored thrust through the Ardennes, the same forested region where German armor had surprised the Allies in 1940, aimed at capturing the port of Antwerp and splitting the British and American armies. If it succeeded, Germany might force a negotiated peace in the West and concentrate its remaining strength against the Soviet advance from the east. The plan required everything Germany had left, reserves accumulated at the cost of stripping other fronts, the last large-scale panzer formations, the last reserves of aviation fuel. There would be no second attempt. American intelligence had detected activity opposite the Ardennes sector, but had misinterpreted it as defensive preparations. The Ardennes was held lightly because commanders considered it a quiet sector, difficult terrain, that the Germans would not attack in winter. Some units in the line had been sent there to rest after Huitjen Forest. Others were fresh from the United States and still learning what combat meant. When the artillery opened at 5:30 a.m. on December 16th and German infantry and armor followed 40 minutes later, the shock was genuine. The early hours were catastrophic. The 106th Infantry Division, in its first week of combat, was surrounded and largely destroyed. Over 7,000 men surrendering in a single engagement, the largest mass American surrender since Bataan. The 28th Infantry Division, badly mauled at Huitjen, held critical road junctions for days before being overwhelmed, buying time that proved essential. The key town in the German plan was Bastogne, Belgium, a road hub whose 7 converging routes would allow the Germans to move armor west and south. Bastogne had to be captured quickly for the offensive to succeed. It was not captured quickly. Elements of the 101st Airborne Division, along with Combat Command B of the 10th Armored Division, reached Bastogne on the night of December 18th and 19th, hours before German forces could seal the town. The 101st, commanded by Acting Commander Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, dug in. By December 21st, German forces had surrounded Bastogne completely. On December 22nd, a German commander sent a formal written demand for surrender, noting that the town was surrounded and resistance was hopeless. McAuliffe's written reply was 4 words, "Nuts." When the German officer asked for clarification, the American officer who delivered the response said it meant "go to hell." The 101st held. German armor bypassed Bastogne to the north and south, but could not eliminate the garrison at their rear. To the north, German panzer columns reached within 4 miles of the Meuse River, closer to Antwerp than anyone in the Allied command had expected possible. But there the advance stalled. American engineers blew bridges. Armor from Patton's Third Army began moving north within 48 hours of the offensive beginning, a logistical feat that Eisenhower's staff considered nearly impossible. On December 26th, lead elements of the 4th Armored Division broke through to Bastogne. The siege was lifted. On December 23rd, the weather had cleared, and Allied air power returned, systematically destroying German supply columns and fuel dumps that the panzers could not afford to lose. The Battle of the Bulge officially ended on January 25, 1945. Germany had lost approximately 100,000 men killed, wounded, or captured. Over 800 tanks and assault guns were destroyed. Aviation losses included nearly 1,000 aircraft. Most critically, Germany had expended the last strategic reserve it possessed in the West, the forces that would have been needed to resist the Rhine crossing in the spring. American losses were heavy, approximately 80,000 casualties, including over 19,000 killed, the bloodiest engagement in American military history. but those losses could be replaced. Germany's could not. The Bulge was Hitler's last gamble. He had staked the remainder of Germany's offensive capability on a battle plan his own generals considered fantasy, and in the first 48 hours, it had nearly worked. The speed and violence of the German attack achieved tactical surprise at a scale not seen in the West since 1940. But it failed at the strategic level for the same reason every German gamble in the West had failed since Normandy: American logistics, American air power, and the capacity of American units to absorb catastrophic initial losses and continue fighting was simply beyond what German planners had planned for. After the Bulge, the road to Berlin was open. Germany had nothing left to close it with. The Battle of the Bulge was the final proof, if any were needed, that Germany's defeat was inevitable but not yet accomplished. The men who fought in the Ardennes in December 1944, the soldiers holding road junctions in villages they could not pronounce, the paratroopers in Bastogne who said nuts to a surrender demand, the tank crews racing north through frozen roads in Patton's relief column, did not think in terms of historical inevitability. They were cold, they were under artillery fire, and they were doing a specific job. The job, when finished, left Germany without the means to stop what came next. By the time the Ardennes was cleared in late January, Allied forces were already preparing the Rhine crossings. The road to Berlin was open. Nothing remained to close it.